Tēnei e tuana anō ki te tuku aku mihi mai oha ki a koutou. Tēnei he te aku nāku hei tui tui ki ngā kōrero o tā koutou me mā rino. E kawia nei ngā kaupapa I mui te araro o te paremata nō reira tēnā tātou katoa. Mr. Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to be able to make a contribution on this third and final reading and again endorse the comments of Rino Tirikātene, the local member for Te Taitonga on these particular bills. And it does take a lot of courage to apologise, and I want to acknowledge the contribution of the Honourable Nick Smith. It is for that reason that I want to take the unusual step, if people look at my treaty settlement contributions, to record in the Hansard the germane clauses of each apology, and then I'll make clear how that relates to, I think, looking forward. Section 199, Clause 3 of Ngati, the apology to Ngati Koata. The Crown regrets and apologises for its failure to properly respect the rangatiratanga of Ngati Koata. Crown actions, moreover, left Ngati Koata virtually landless in Te Tauihu and alienated them from many of their most sacred sites. For this too the Crown apologises. Their disconnection from their lands marginalised Ngati Koata in the economic development of Te Tauihu and had devastating consequences for the social, cultural and spiritual well-being of Ngati Koata. Those consequences continue to be felt today. Section 202, Clause 4 and 5 of the apology to Ngati Rarua. The Crown admits it did not include Ngati Rarua in its purchase of the Wairoa district in 1847 and only belatedly recognised Ngati Rarua interests in its Te Waipounamu purchase. The Crown apologises for these failures to recognise the rangatiratanga of Ngati Rarua and protect their interests. The Crown is sorry that its actions rendered Ngati Rarua virtually landless in their rohe. This has had a devastating impact on the social and cultural well-being of the people of Ngati Rarua that continues to be seen today. The Crown also accepts that the loss of their land and their restriction to inadequate reserves has significantly marginalised Ngati Rarua from the benefits of economic development and limited the autonomy and ability of the iwi to exercise customary rights and responsibilities throughout the Ngati Rarua rohe. Section 205, Clause 3 and 4, the apology to Ngati Tama ki te Tauihu, reads, the Crown, 1 minute, aroha mai. The Crown profoundly regrets and apologises for its cumulative acts and omissions which left Ngati Tama virtually landless in Te Tauihu. The Crown deeply regrets and sincerely apologises that it did not adequately protect the interests of Ngati Tama and appropriately respect Ngati Tama rangatiratanga when purchasing their land. The Crown is deeply remorseful for the significant damage that the alienation of Ngati Tama from their whenua and customary resources in Golden and Tasman Bays has caused over many generations to the traditional, social and cultural structures, mana and well-being of Ngati Tama. Section 208, Clause 2, 3 and 4, the apology to Te Atiawa o Te Waka Maui. The Crown is deeply sorry that it has failed to live up to the obligations it accepted when more than 20 Te Atiawa rangatira signed the Treaty of Waitangi at Tōtaranui, Queen Charlotte's Sound, in May 1840. The Crown profoundly regrets and apologises for its actions which left Te Atiawa virtually landless in Te Tauihu. The Crown recognises that by 1860, Crown land purchases in Te Tauihu had largely restricted Te Atiawa to isolated reserves and marginalised the iwi from the new emerging economy. In particular, the Crown regrets that when it arranged the purchase of Waitohi as a site of a town for settlers, this meant Te Atiawa had to forsake their principal settlement of Tōtaranui. The Crown acknowledges that it has failed appropriately to appropriately respect te Atiawa rangatiratanga. It is greatly remorseful that over the generations to the present day, Crown actions have undermined your social and traditional structures and your autonomy and ability to exercise your customary rights and responsibilities. Mr. Speaker, I too believe it takes great courage to apologise. I too believe that the effort with which Ngati Koata, Ngati Rarua, Ngati Tama ki te tauihu and te Atiawa o te Waka Maui have come towards the negotiations in a way where they have given much already and compromised much, but are wanting to go forward, is captured in the nature of these apologies. The texts of the apologies are a clear statement of the Crown's admissions for its wrongs. But the apology in itself becomes a reference point for future interactions between each of your respective iwi with the Crown, as it points to the original intent of the legislation and your settlement, but also to the post-settlement expectation of how the Crown can act honourably to uphold its part of the settlement. And this really becomes important at this point after we've heard 8 of the tauihu claims resolved through today's presentations in the House and the passing of your legislation. And I reflect again on the relationship comment that I made in an earlier contribution. Naitahu is here as well. It is probably by no small and insignificant chance that the relationships that can now be forged will hold the government and the Crown, future governments and certainly the Crown, to account for how it deals with yourselves in the South Island. I am reminded by the Honourable former member for Te Taitonga Rahui Kātene that it is significant also that the Whānau Ora Commissioning Agency comprises of each of the 8 tauihu iwi as well as Ngaitahu, which again bears well for how a post-settlement environment can, one, uphold the recognition of what you have each respectively achieved in your treaty settlements, but what you would like to achieve going forward in a range of interactions, whether it be health, education, housing, employment, economic development, the whole raft of opportunities that can now exist because in part you have your treaty settlement which recognises the extent of the historical injustice and the redress that has been reached, but the opportunity of a post-settlement landscape that now forges a new normal for the way in which a government must have extend its relationship in a more purposeful way with each and every one of you. Mr. Speaker, it gives me great pride and pleasure to be able to be here today and witness, I think, a very significant step, not just for the tauihu iwi, but for New Zealand and for the opportunities that can be provided to ensure that these range of treaty settlements that we have debated through Select Committee to today will remain durable and will uphold the intent of what was identified in the apologies in terms of what the expectation is in the future. Tēnā tātou katoa.
Mr. Speaker.
Denise Roche.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker.